Good evening and a very warm welcome to a beautiful evening here at Hong Kong International Airport. Guys and girls, in this video we're going to be flying with Emirates aboard their first class on their A380. I've never once done it before, even before the channel, and certainly not on it, so can't wait to do it. So without further ado, let's wind back a few hours to Bangkok. We'll board the A380 and see just what first class is like with Emirates. Let's get to it. So towards the end of this video, I'm going to give you a full insight as to exactly what I paid for this super cheap Emirates first class, but for now, let's get checked in. Alrighty, so that's the check-in done, absolutely seamless as you'd expect in first class, nice dedicated lane. I never thought, to be honest, I'd have one of these on my bag. Pretty smart, yeah, from here on in, it's just going to be through security, hopefully that's nice and quick. Not sure if they have priority here, but we'll find out soon enough, and then through to the lounge. Well, I'm pleased to be able to report that Bangkok International Airport does indeed have fast-track security and immigration. As soon as I then got through, it was a case of picking up the multitude of different signage for each of the lounges. That made it nice and easy, thankfully, to find the lounge. Alrighty, so that was nice and seamless through the fast-track security and indeed passport. Immigration control from here, it's just on down to the lounge. It's been a bit of a walk, but we'll soon be there and see what it's like. I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest, when it came to the Emirates lounge. I wasn't really expecting a separate business class to the first class lounge. It is, after all, an outstation for them. I was particularly lucky that I got through to the lounge itself well before any of the other passengers, so I had some really nice quiet scenes to be able to film. Overall, it was really very impressive. I love those views back out towards the garden areas. On the food and drinks front, as you'd fully expect, there was an absolute multitude of choices. I was trying especially hard not to eat. There was, of course, going to be so much yummy food to enjoy on board. The smell, however, was absolutely fantastic. I've never quite smelled such good food in any airport lounge. So that was really very tempting. You'll see it in a few different areas as well throughout the lounge. I love the attention to detail with the Emirates. Even the little placards, they're all written in the Emirates font. And how good do some of these desserts look just here? In terms of some of the additional facilities, I'm pleased to report that the lounge did indeed have showers. I didn't use them on that occasion. There wasn't a huge amount of time, but always very nice indeed to see them. There was a variety also of different seating areas, so that was always something that's very nice to see. A big plus point, particularly from my side, is how power enabled all of the seats are. It's great just to be able to sit, get comfy, and get all of your devices charged before a long journey. So that's us settled into the lounge. Now, I wouldn't usually do too many pieces to camera in a lounge because it's often so busy, but actually, because this is around 3 hours still until the time of departure, I'm pretty much the only one here. I've got this whole section of the lounge to myself. The good news is that there's a dedicated Emirates lounge. I think it looks really smart. Only downside is that there's not a specific first class lounge, so nothing quite like that to show today, but actually for a business lounge it's really good. I was very impressed with the food offering. I'm not going to indulge, of course, in too much because save lots of space, of course, for the onboard dining. There's showers here, toilet facilities, multiple bar areas, little TV areas. It looks really smart, but for now I'll get settled into the lounge, and in the next scene, no doubt, we'll be departing to Hong Kong. Stay tuned. Now, just before we do indeed head down to the boarding gate, I'm going to indulge in a little bit of food. There were so many selections, it was tricky to know really what to go for, but I'm a huge satay fan, so that in the end was something that I went for. You could even help yourself to the sauce, so lashings of this were fully available. Little shot also of the bathrooms there, and some very nice little toiletries fully available. Well, at this time, my goodness, was the excitement building. It was going to be my first time on board an Emirates A380 in a super premium cabin, and I couldn't wait to jump on board. Thankfully, they had priority boarding available, so I was one of the very first on board the aircraft. So let's jump on and see what it's like. And here we go then. I was blessed with seat 1A on that afternoon and it was absolutely fantastic. It's difficult with the camera sometimes to convey the sheer sense of scale now, although unfortunately I wasn't lucky enough to have one of the latest products. This one still looked absolutely brilliant, and I must say in person it looked an awful lot less bling and gaudy than it actually comes through so much in the various reviews of it that you may well have seen via the camera. A little bit later into the review, we'll get those sweet doors shut and show you the sheer amount of privacy that's available as part of this seat. Should say, if this is your first time also tuning into the channel, I've got so much more similar content on the channel from the likes of British Airways, Qatar Airways, and so many other carriers. So if this sort of content is your thing, hit that subscribe button, and YouTube will help you stay fully up to date with every video as it goes live weekly on the channel. The suite itself was packed full of little goodies to explore as you arrived. I was a big fan of the notepad and pen, and one aspect that really comes through with Emirates, regardless of what cabin you fly with them in, is the abundance so often of food. I loved this little selection of snacks and of course the drinks all waiting for me from the rising bar as well. One of the aspects that I'd mention more so than anything else, to be honest, was just the feeling of quality to everything, whether it was leather, wood, metal, etc. I loved how everything was put together and designed. These little swivel air vents were absolutely superb. I'd never seen anything quite like it on board an aircraft before. There was one just down to your side and then another up towards the shoulder area, but there was also conveniently a little light as well. Like with so many first class cabins, there was no overhead storage. This maximised the headroom within the cabin, gave it a nice airy feel. That then did mean, however, that there was a little bit of a unique approach to hand luggage. Within the cabin itself, you're encouraged to take these directly into your suite where you could store them well clear of your legroom. That meant that, of course, you always had instant access to them, which was an aspect that I thought was pretty good. In terms of the seats controls, you did have a little quick access menu for the main functions, which we'll check out a little bit later on. Otherwise, the in-depth menu all came through the touchpad on the side. This is where you could then control the various different lighting and seating settings for everything that goes on within the suite. Now on the charging front, Emirates had you very well covered. Next to where the table comes out from, there was a couple of USB adapters. There was then also a full plug socket fully available just there additionally. This really was one of these seats that you do need a nice long time to sit in to fully appreciate everything that's available. Some more little toiletries available for you there, and I promised a quick shot of the quick access controls. These were just down on the armrests, and I have to say, these work nicely. So that's us on board. The champagne is indeed flowing, so let's take a sip and see what it's like. Just like the champagne, the service kept flowing before the departure. There was an Arabic dates and coffee service. There was a small limited edition amenity kit, you could say, that came around. It was just slippers and an eye mask. This won't be an especially long flight today, so the full one not really required. There was then also a hot towel that came around as well. I must say, it was an absolute pleasure being back on board an Emirates A380. It's such a smooth and quiet aircraft to travel on. Before long, we were pushing back and heading for those sunny Bangkok skies, and quite frankly, I couldn't wait to get up there and start getting into the service itself. From the moment that I jumped on board, being seated of course right at the front of the cabin, it gave me a fantastic view forward towards the area that they have those world famous shower spas. So it's here that we'll kick off our review of the onboard experience. Of course, there's no bathroom on board a plane. Like an Emirates bathroom in first class, you've got the famous shower just here behind me. This flight's fairly short, so I'm not going to be indulging in that, but over the next minute or so, I'm going to give you a quick overview around. Now, seeing this particular area on board on video just didn't prepare me, frankly, for exactly what it was going to be like. It was absolutely phenomenal. I have seen something similar aboard Qatar Airways in terms of the space, but Emirates' utilisation of it was absolutely phenomenal. It was the little touches really for me, the fact that they had aftershave in the bathroom you could go up and help yourself to, and wow, that shower itself, I thought it would be an awful lot smaller than it was, but it was a really decent size. I'll come on to that in a moment, but yeah, it was just one absolute wow feature after the next. Now, despite this being a relatively short hop over to Hong Kong, the shower spas were fully open and I could have indulged in a shower. I have to say it was incredibly tempting, but alas, time is of the essence and it's time for us to start moving on to the next segment of this review. I didn't actually want to stay in there for too long, didn't really want to hug it, but it was absolutely mind-blowing. I've done first class with Qatar. They do something a little bit similar with the bathroom at the front, but really it's just a big space. They don't have the shower and it's nowhere near as impressive. I've seen lots of videos of it, but as ever with the camera, it's really difficult to portray that idea of size and scale. It was the same, it was absolutely huge. I thought the shower would just be a really tight little space as you'd fully expect on an aircraft, but it absolutely wasn't. If that was a domestic shower, you'd be perfectly happy with the space. I certainly would. So, yeah, it was insane. Now, whilst I take a moment to explore even more of this seat's multitude of features, maybe someone down in the comments below can help us out with exactly what these features were. It's now time to look at the all-important menus. First things first, I thought these were absolutely fantastically presented. It was a wonderful selection. It was to be a lunch service on that afternoon, and I promise we will do the full 4 courses together. Separate to the food menu, there was then a really impressive wine menu that came around. This also featured an overview of the main champagne served the moment you get airborne with Emirates. This was to be a particular vintage of Krug, which is put together especially for Emirates. More on that a little bit later on. Above and beyond that was a really nice selection of both white and red wine. And then, finally, a dessert and port selection. Overall, I thought it was a really good wine overview. Loads more to come on that front, of course, but for now, the table is set. Let's jump in to the first course. And of course, I couldn't fly Emirates first class without trying their world-famous caviar. I thought the portion itself was incredibly generous. To be honest, I was absolutely shocked by the huge multitude of various different accompaniments that kept rolling out to go alongside it. I was especially glad that their particular table is very large in size. To accompany this, I had a glass of the French white wine. I have to say, it was the best glass of white I've ever had on any flight ever. It was truly phenomenal. As soon as the food was served, it provided a great opportunity for me to bring those sweet doors together for the first time to create this incredibly private space. So without further ado, I've got myself a little Bellini made. Let's see what it's like. And yes, as you'd fully expect, it really was very special indeed. Between courses, it gave me the opportunity to check out a few more of this seat's features. I love the way in which Emirates do the window shades. You can have these half closed or fully closed, and of course, one of the major benefits of first class is that the entire space is very much your own. I love the configurability and the sheer amount of privacy available within these suites. As my second course was being prepared, the purser came round with a bottle of the Krug, and frankly, it would have been rude of me to have refused her, so I indulged in that with my second course. It was to be the Arabic meze. The first word that came to mind when I saw it was plentiful. I wasn't quite sure, to be honest, at this stage, how on earth I was going to get through these 4 courses, but my goodness, did it look good. On the Arabic meze front, everything tasted wonderfully fresh. My only point of improvement, I think, for them would have been to have served the flatbreads warm. I think this would have added a little something extra to the dish. As for that Krug champagne, I'm not really one for very high-end champagnes, but my goodness, did that taste good. From there, I then rolled straight into the seared beef tenderloin. It looked absolutely fantastic, and accompanying that, I had a glass of the red wine, which I was especially looking forward to. So let's see how it all goes down. This is the moment that I've really been looking forward to, is the red wine on board. This is an area that Qatar Airways excelled so much in, so let's see how they do. That smells good. It's good, but it's not quite as good. After the wine, it was then time to dig in for the first time. Now, I'm always a little bit skeptical ordering beef on board, even in really premium cabins. It doesn't perform well in the onboard ovens, but this was the best piece of beef I've ever had aboard any flight. I was absolutely shocked. It was phenomenal. And to round it all off, I opted for the chocolate caramel tart and also a glass of the dessert wine.
dessert wine time. Let's give it a go. So good.
After so many courses, it was a good time to get that table packed away and check out all things onboard entertainment. Now, the main screen at the end of my suite was absolutely huge. It must have been a few years old after all. This is indeed Emirates' outgoing first class product, but it was wonderfully responsive as ever with Emirates and their ICE entertainment system. This one is famous for being packed full of content. It's one of the best, if not the best, entertainment system in the world, and there was no shortage of things to watch. As for the headset, these were done by Bowers and Wilkins. These are separate from the business class to the first class, and my goodness, did they feel of real quality. And finally, we'll come on to the all-important Wi-Fi. Now, the good news here on the Wi-Fi front for first-class guests is it's completely free of charge and unlimited for the duration of the flight. On this particular flight, it was a little bit pedestrian in terms of the speed, but it was wonderful to have it free of charge up in the first class. And next up, let's talk all things bedding. The crew very kindly came over and offered to make up the bed for me. I would point out on this occasion it didn't have the mattress on it. I didn't want to trouble the crew too much, but they did a very good job of semi-setting it up there for me. When I was actually in the bed itself, my goodness, was this comfortable, even by first class standards, and with those doors shut and particularly curving up very slightly towards the windows, it gave such an amazing sense of privacy. And as for that mattress, my goodness, it was memory foam, it weighed an absolute ton, and that, combined with the comfort of the seat, would have made probably the best first class bed I've ever been in. It was truly fantastic. And next up, just when I thought the indulgence was coming to an end, oh no, there were some wonderful chocolates that were brought around. The box was so much bigger, had so many more in than I thought there would be. I helped myself to a few, but to be honest, at that point, I was absolutely done. It had been an absolutely incredible flight, particularly on the food and beverage front. As we made our descent down towards Hong Kong, I was treated to some absolutely mesmerising views back down towards the central city area. I've seen Hong Kong so many times in pictures, I've even flown into it once before, but I've never seen that central harbour area, and my goodness, with the sun setting on it, did it look incredible. Now, I'm sure you're really keen to know exactly what I paid for this flight, and to be honest, even though it was a full cash ticket, I got it for absolute peanuts. The flight in this direction up to Hong Kong cost just £350, and given the quality of this service, it was the best value flight I've ever bought. I actually then used a couple of Emirates points to make it even cheaper than that, but £350 was the list price that I paid. This is quite a special flight, I have to say. It goes between Bangkok and Hong Kong as a bit of a shuttle, and it's a famous one for being able to get those Emirates premium cabins nice and cheap. I'd love to have flashed up for you the exact deal that I got, but unfortunately looking further forward, it has got a little bit more expensive, but when it comes to buying Emirates first class, there's still no cheaper way to do it. I'll very shortly be producing an Emirates business class A380 review where we'll check out the bar together and so much more, so don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I can't wait to welcome you on board that review in the coming weeks ahead. Otherwise, all that's left for me to say is to thank you so much for watching today's video. It was for sure a huge amount of fun bringing it to you. The flight really was absolutely perfect from start to finish, and I promise I'll see you in another one real soon.